Okay, so imagine you knew the exact decisions you need to make to ensure you became a millionaire. Well, I believe there are 5, and these are the same decisions I made that helped me become a multimillionaire, and I've shared them with quite a few people, and I've seen them work time and time again over the years. I was recently asked to give a talk about this in London, and they were kind enough to share the footage with me, so I'm sharing it with you here on the channel so you can learn these 5 decisions as well. Please enjoy.
If you could think back to the 3 worst financial decisions that you have ever made and you can erase them, how rich would you be right now? Raise your hand if you still have your father. Awesome. By the grace of God, I still have my father. And I remember, there's always that one thing that you used to do with your dad that you always remember. And for me, it was Blockbuster night. Every single Friday, we would go to Blockbuster, and we'd pick out 3 or 4 movies that we would watch for the weekend. And we loved the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. We'd run around the house and we'd be like, "Get to the chopper!" And we just had a great time. It was a pillar of my childhood. And I remember I always wanted to have a son one day, and I always wanted to have Blockbuster night with my son. God gave me a son, but sadly, I never got to have that Blockbuster night. When I was a kid, Blockbuster was the king of rentals. They were a $3 billion company. And in 2000, a man named Reed Hastings approached Blockbuster, and he had a little DVD by mail service. And he had a subscription model, and he would send the DVDs in the mail. And he tried to sell his company to Blockbuster for $50 million. And Blockbuster laughed him out of the room. They thought what he was doing was stupid. You know why? Because Blockbuster, you see, they didn't make money from renting videos. They made money from, can anyone guess it? Late fees. That's how they made money. So they thought his idea was stupid. Reed made a decision. He made a decision to go the subscription model and even pivot to streaming. He made what I call $1 million decision. Now, Blockbuster, they made the decision to stick with late fees. Today, Blockbuster, once a $3 billion company, is now worth nothing. So not only did they cost me my movie night with my kid, but it cost them everything. They had every advantage. They had literally millions and millions and billions of dollars in resources, a customer base, a name, a brand. They had every advantage. And one bad decision took them down. Reed made one good decision. And today, his company is worth $275 billion. And does anyone know the name of his company? Netflix. The highest paid novelist of all time, J.K. Rowling, who's worth over $1 billion, said, "It is our choices that show who we truly are, far more than our abilities." I love this game. I love ads. I love marketing. I love all of it. I geek out on it. I have spent $17,000 on one ad. It was a funny music video ad, and I've made $850,000 in sales off that. I have also spent $10,000 on an ad, wondered why I didn't get any sales, and realized I didn't put the pixel on the landing page. Yes. I have made millions, I have lost millions, I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been fat, I've been in shape, I've been unhappy, and I've been happy. And I can tell you right now, no one tactic has ever been responsible for my success or failure. It always came down to the decisions that I made. And I believe that there are 5 decisions that I've discovered that I've implemented in every company I've ever owned, ever bought, ever worked with, and every client that I have ever engaged with. And these 5 decisions have always made things better, always made more money. And these are the decisions that I want to share with you today. Are you guys ready to learn the first one? Yes? Yes. All right, awesome. So, the first one, do what the 1% does. One of my first jobs in sales, actually my first job in sales, does anybody remember the pitch man named Billy Mays? Do you guys remember him? The OxyClean guy? I got a job at the company where he got started. And the gig was to sell these pots and pans at like Sam's Club and Costco and department stores. You'd do this little cooking show and you'd sell this overpriced set of cookware. Well, I got the job, I flew up to New Jersey. They trained me for 2 weeks. I was just about to go on, and I got nervous. And I go up to my sales manager, who was the sales manager for Billy Mays. And I said, I can't do this. I look like I'm 12, who's gonna trust me? Like, I can't do this. Now, I thought I was about to get like some Kevin Costner speech from this guy. No. He gets in my face and he says, listen, you little shit. We spent a lot of money bringing you up here. And then he grabs this page and he says, we spent millions of dollars on this script that we taught you. Just say this. Like, do you think you're that special that this won't work for you? We spent millions figuring this out. Just say this. And so I said it. I made $1,500 in commissions that day. And that really taught me something about what we don't know is really our biggest expense. The owner of that company, his name's Jeff, he's a billionaire. Really cool guy. What he would do is he would buy lunch for the entire company every day, and he'd always sit in different spots and talk to people. And one day, I got to sit next to him. This guy's a billionaire. So I'm like, I got to ask him something. Well, what can I ask him? And so I asked him the dumbest question that I could possibly ask. I say, Jeff, how do I get rich? And he looks at me and he says, okay, how many books do you read per week on money, finance, business, persuasion? How many? I said, none. Just Netflix and chill. There was no Netflix then, but. And he looks at me and he goes, then you don't want to get rich, so don't waste my time. I said, whoa, what do you mean? Of course, everybody wants to get rich. He says, no. People that want to get rich read books on how to get rich. You don't read books on how to get rich, so you don't want to. And that really stuck with me. And I didn't take that advice until years later when I was in a very bad financial situation. And I picked up my first marketing book. And that month I did 100 grand. And that year, after reading like 10, 15 books, I did 2.9 million. And I thought, man, rich people read books. Maybe I should read books. What other cool stuff do rich people do? And so I started doing what they do. I just mimicked them. For instance, every year I would get into a new mastermind because I needed to understand what other people did. You ever hear that parable? This is actually, I believe it's a true story. There was a world-class violinist who went to New York City, and he was set up to play at the most prestigious theater house in New York. And the night before, just for fun, he gets on the subway and he goes and he busks. And as he busks, he plays violin, world-class violinist. And he makes like $100 in tips, and 4 people stopped and 1 person clapped. The next day, he goes to the theater house. He performs in front of 1,000 people. They all paid $100 each to watch him, and he got a standing ovation. And what this proves is it doesn't matter how extraordinary or talented you are. Extraordinary people only thrive in extraordinary environments. So ask yourself, have you made your environment extraordinary? Who are you hanging out with? Who are your friends? Who are the people you associate with that are literally programming your brain every day? Are they extraordinary? This was a huge decision I had to make. Do what the 1% does. They learn what they need to learn. They put themselves in extraordinary environments. I remember when I started this new offer. Anybody here run webinars? Y'all run webinars? Yes? So I hired a COO recently, 20 grand a month, so I could focus, so I could leverage my time to focus on making this new webinar. And I spent 3 weeks creating it, crafting it. Just launched it last week, converted at 43%. Live.
Wow.
Well, thank you. But I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because there's 0% chance I would have converted that high if I just threw it together. Because I've tried that. It doesn't work. You see, here's what I learned about the 1%. The 1%, they don't trade time for money. They trade money for time. They buy time so that they can get there faster. That's what they do. I bought time. My COO runs my whole company so I can nerd out on sales presentations. And that's because that's what grows the company. So that's the first decision. The second decision, who here feels like they don't charge enough? A lot of people. Do you know how much money you have to make to hit $1 million per year? Does anybody know? No. No, per day. Did I say per month? Per day. Per day. How many per day? Anybody know?
2,800.
Almost. 2,740. Now think about that. How many of you here, raise your hand if you want to make $1 million. Everybody wants to make $1 million. But only like I didn't hear anybody who knew that number, 2,740. Isn't that amazing how we always want to make $1 million. We don't even know how much money we have to make per day to get there. And that's why it's so important to have people who have already done it help you. Because you don't know what you don't know. So, let me ask you. If you want to make $1 million, 1 million, and you have a $100 product, how many of these do you have to sell to hit 1 million? 100? I wish. 10,000. I'd be a billionaire. 10,000. 10,000. Okay, so let's say you double your price. 200. Now how many? 5,000. Okay, 5,000. Now let's say you charge, let's really kick up the price to 1,000. Now how much do you have to sell? 1,000. Okay, now let's say you 10x the price from there and you're charging 10,000. How many? 100. What about 50,000? What if you charge 50,000? 20? 20. Okay. What's easier, to get 10,000 yeses or to get 20 yeses? 20. Even 100. So the principle here is if you want to get to $1 million as fast as possible, learn how to charge more. Guys, if you want something, it can easily be solved by knowing how to charge a lot of money for what you do. My wife, we just moved to Dubai. She's Turkish. She wanted Turkish furniture. Anybody know how much Turkish furniture costs? Bro, it's like 30 grand for a friggin' couch. I was like, what? So what did I do? I go on Instagram. I'm like, hey guys, I'm taking on some private clients, blah, blah, blah. I sold 3 one-on-one consultations for $50,000 each last week. 150 grand. Boom, there's your furniture. Okay? Figure out how to charge more. Then you don't have to pay stuff with money. You can pay it with offers. You can just make an offer and there's your furniture, there's your car, there's whatever you need. Okay? So, have anybody ever read any of the Robert Cialdini books? Okay. So in the Robert Cialdini one, I think it was Persuasion, there was a story about a jeweler. And she had this pair of earrings in the center of the store, okay? She leaves a note to her manager. And the reason she left this note was because these earrings sat here for 6 months and didn't sell. And she got fed up with it. So she goes, you know what? Take 50% off, cut these in half, and I want to get rid of them. She comes back on Monday morning, earrings are gone. They're gone. They're not here anymore. She goes up to the manager and she says, good thing we lowered the price and cut the price in half, got rid of those darn earrings. And the manager gets this horrified look on her face. And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, what? What? She goes, I read the note wrong. She goes, what do you mean? She goes, I doubled the price. I didn't cut it in half. See, the reason those earrings sold is because they were more expensive. Nobody wants cheap stuff. They literally sold, they didn't sell for 6 months, but they ended up selling overnight because they looked more expensive because the price tag said it. Now think about this. If I offered you a brand new Ferrari for the price of a Ford Taurus, what's the first question you would ask? What's wrong with it? I hate to break this to you, but how many of you, raise your hand if you think you truly have something amazing. Whatever your offer is, it's truly amazing. If you tell your clients that what you have to offer is amazing, and it'll change their life, and it'll do all these things, and you say, look, it's a Ferrari, but then your pricing reflects that of a Ford Taurus, you promise this huge thing with this itty bitty price, what do you think the first thing they're going to think is? What's wrong with it? Discounts do not create sales. They create doubt. They create doubt. So, I would like to help you charge more. We do a little exercise. Y'all got a pen and paper? Yes? All right. So, here's what I want you to do. Right now, I want you to think of 10 of your ideal clients walking down a beach, okay? I'm only going to draw 3 because we only got so much time, but let's say that's 10. Now, they come across a genie lamp, all right? I'm not a great artist, but a little stick figure. Boom. This is the genie. Now, this genie is a capitalist. And he's like, you know what? I'm only going to give one of you a wish, and you got to bid on it. Now, pretend that the wish is the exact problem that your business solves. So whatever problem your business takes away, whatever you do, that's their wish. How high would the bid get? If that genie could wave a magic wand and erase that problem, just like you do what you do and erase that problem, how high would the bid get? Write that number down. Write it down right now. How high would the bid get? Write it down. Write the number. Can I hear a couple numbers? Shout them out. $100,000. Give me another one. 200,000. Give me another one. 1 million. Now here's what I want you to do. Next to that number, I want you to write down what you currently charge. If there is a large difference between those two numbers, you're undercharging. And the principle here is this. If you don't know what you're worth, how do you expect your customers to know what you're worth? It starts with you. So that is the second decision. Charge more. Do not be afraid. Fear, man, fear is such a terrible thing because it's this emotion that just drives our entire life. So, third decision. Find roots. Find roots. So I want you to think about this for a second. Let's say you have a flower. And this flower is planted in the ground. And it has a root system. Now, how long will this flower last planted in the ground with a root system? Pretty long time, right? If you cut this flower, you take it out, and you put it in a pot. Now how long does it last? Does it last a lot less? Yes. So this lasts a lot longer. Why? Because it has a root system. It can feed off of the nutrients. It can use the roots for strength. Most of the time as entrepreneurs, we are alone. We are a cut flower in a pot. We have no root system. And one thing that I learned was find roots. It is so incredibly difficult to have this amazing dream, this huge goal, that 99.999999999% of the people on this planet couldn't even fathom having. And everyone in this room, you got on a plane, you came out here, you sat in this room. Why? Because your dreams are a lot bigger than most people on this planet. Period. And when you have that big of a dream, most of the time we find ourselves alone. So leveraging other people as a root system is incredibly important. I tried to go it alone. I remember, you all know Sam Ovens? So I remember I had several years ago, at a bad point in my company. I made some really bad decisions. I was very good at what I did, but I made some bad decisions. I had like 14 products. I was making $250,000 a month for 2 years straight, just chilling with one sales presentation, one automatic webinar. Then I was like, oh, let me do more stuff. And I got so distracted, I whittled down to 70 grand a month. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I joined Sam Ovens' mastermind. I paid like 30 grand, paid money when I didn't have so much money. I also learned that, pay the most when you have the least, because that's when you need it the most. And I go into Sam's mastermind, and I explain my whole situation, and he goes, yes. You have 14 products. I'm like, yeah, I got 14 products. He goes, delete 13. I'm like, you want me to delete 13? He's like, yes. I'm like, hold on, let me get this straight. You want me to take away 13 of my products and only focus on one? Yes. I paid 30 grand for that, right? So you know what I did when I got home? I deleted 13 products, focused on one, and like 4 months later, we were at 500 grand a month. I knew the same stuff 5 months ago. I knew the same tactics. I knew all of this. I just made a different decision. So think about this for a second. And this is why I always love to be around other people who are trying to do what I'm trying to do, and they're succeeding at a high level. Anybody play golf? Anybody all here play golf? Yes? So when you play golf, if you're standing there with a golf club, you can only see so much of you, right? You see your arms, you see this. You don't really see that much. And so when you have a flaw in your swing, you don't really know what you're doing wrong. But if somebody stands over here and looks at you, they're like, oh, they're 10 feet away, they can see the whole swing. And they're like, oh, well, your foot's off. And what you were seriously like sitting there for days trying to figure out, why am I hooking the ball? This guy, oh, well, you're doing this. Just like that. How many of you can resonate with the fact that you are incredibly good at what you do, but when it comes to doing it for other people, you're brilliant, and when you try to do it for yourself, it's like you're just like spaz, okay? That's why you need a root system. That's why you need other people around you that do this at a high level, because they're going to look at your golf swing. The 1%, they always find roots. They always find roots. So that brings me to decision 4. Now, this is going to be a personal one. This is probably the most important decision of all. How many of you here want $1 million business? You want to have a nice car. You want to be in shape. You want to have a beautiful marriage. 99% of people want all of those things, but only 1% have it. Only 1% have it. So, something you may not know about me. Anybody here followed me for any length of time? Make some noise? Oh, GCU. All right, all right. All right, so I've had I'm like the Robert Downey Jr. of internet marketing. So I was married, and my wife married me when I was dead broke, literally had to sell water bottles on the side of the road to try to pay the electric. She worked 3 jobs to let me figure out this internet stuff, and I finally figured it out and became a millionaire. It changed everything for us. Well, the pressure got to me. I had all the, they say more money, more problems, and I spent so much time trying to figure out and solve the problems and put out the fires that I neglected my family, and we ended up getting divorced. And we were divorced for like 5 years, and what's really sad about it is we got divorced when my son was 6 months old. I missed his first steps. I missed so many things, and it was very difficult for me. And the way I coped was, and look, don't judge me, but for the first time in my life, I was rich, single, and male. It's a bad combination. So I did what every guy would do in my position. I went out and I bought a $2 million yacht and I partied my life away. Literally, that's not a joke. I was drinking, I was partying, I was just literally just trying to numb the pain. And it may have looked like, oh, I was having this great time, I'm being Jordan Belfort, but no, it was really just self-medicating. And I did this for 2 straight years. And one day I woke up and I thought, man, I have what most men would think is the pinnacle, but I'm miserable. And all I want is to see my son. All I want is to watch a movie with my wife in her PJs on the couch. And so I started trying to get my wife to remarry me. And she's like, Dan, I just saw an Instagram story where you had like 20 strippers on your yacht. What the fuck? What are you talking about? I'm like, oh, well, I'll tell them to leave. I'll get rid of them. She's like, no. You don't get it. It's like, you have to do that first, and then I have to see that you're like a decent dude, and then we talk. I'm like, yeah, but then what if she doesn't? Then I lose. I'm just, then I'll have nothing, And so one day I realized, no, she's right. I kept trying, being the internet freak and marketer, I tried to scheme my way to getting my family back. I tried to figure out how to convert my way to getting my family back. Oh, if my copy's good enough, she'll say yes. That's not how it works. Here's what I learned. This is a huge thing I learned. I didn't get my wife back because I didn't deserve to get my wife back. When I realized that, I woke up and I had $10,000 worth of alcohol in my penthouse. And the reason I had that is because when I sold my yacht, I took all the alcohol off and put it in my penthouse. I had a $3,000 bottle of whiskey. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was $3,000. And I woke up, I said, all right, I got to do something. So I poured maybe you saw it on Instagram, I poured every single bottle out. It took me 4 hours. I poured every bottle out into the drain, and I had this huge table of just like 100 bottles of alcohol empty. I cleaned up my life. I started getting up at 5 a.m. I went to the gym. I lost weight. I read books. I didn't party. I cut out all my friends that were toxic. I got rid of relationships. I literally just completely cleaned up my life. I went to therapy. I got in personal development, everything. And then my wife noticed, and so she started saying, hey, you want to go to the aquarium with the kid and stuff, and we started hanging out. And one day, she sent me a text. She said, you know what, Dan? I'll remarry you. And thank you. That was about a year and a half ago. And we got remarried, and I've had my son every day. I get to hang out with him every day. I do amazing things, go on amazing vacations with them, all the things I wished I could have done. And we just bought a brand new villa in Dubai. We just moved to Dubai and just starting a whole new life together. And it was because of this. We always want things. We want nice cars. We want $1 million business. We want this. We want that. Yada, yada, yada. But we're not human. We want to have these things. We're not human havings. We're human beings. So instead of wanting and focusing on what you want, focus on becoming the person that deserves it. Because if you can become the person that deserves it, you'll get it. That was a huge life lesson for me. Become the person that deserves it. If you focus on that one thing, you will have all the things you want by not wanting. This brings me to the fifth decision. This one is huge, and one of my heroes when it comes to speaking, David J. Phillips, is in the audience. You guys see him earlier? Was he not awesome? So the thing is, I loved his speeches and I loved watching him. I always geek out anytime somebody talks about the human mind. And this is the decision. It's study the human mind. Because, guys, everything that we do, this monitor here was designed and built by what? The human mind. This TV that I can see, it was designed and built by what? The human mind. Would you take your car to a mechanic if that mechanic said, I don't know how engines work? No. You guys are entrepreneurs. Heck, you're marketers. What is your number one tool? Your mind, okay? Your mind. You have to become a mechanic of your own mind. So, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the mind works. Would anybody here, would it be helpful if you knew psychologically why people don't buy? Yes. Okay, so what is your mind programmed as a fundamental, primal level? It's programmed to keep you what? To keep you safe, okay? Safe. Now, in order to get reward, what must you first do? Risk. You can't make money from the stock market unless you risk money in the stock market. You can't get jacked in the gym unless you risk looking stupid for a while. Okay? You can't build an influence and a brand if you don't risk saying something dumb. And you will say something dumb. I've said it plenty of times. Okay? Risk is required to get reward. Now, what is the opposite of safety? Risk. So, your mind is naturally set up to keep you unsuccessful. Why? Because it's always adverse to the one thing that gets you the reward. So, has anyone here had a customer that you thought you were going to make the sale? Oh, this guy's going to buy. But then when it comes time to taking the payment, they get all like nervous and they don't buy. You know why that is? It's because when you logically make a decision, this will improve my life. And look, if it doesn't logically make sense to you, forget about it. Don't do it. But if you say, look, here's an opportunity standing me in front of the face. If I do this, if I invest the money, my life will get better. I will make so much more. But then when it comes time to actually do it, you get that, you feel hot, your vision gets a little weird, you get tingly. That's your mind taking over and trying to keep you safe. It doesn't know that you can get a return on investment. It just knows danger, danger, danger. You're going to spend money. Make yourself feel hot, okay? And it's trying to tell you that. And that's why most people are unsuccessful, because they succumb to that feeling. The 1% know how their mind works. They know when that feeling, oh, this is what my body's supposed to do. And they proceed anyway. We are programmed to believe that champions are fearless. They are not. They simply do it scared. And so, when you realize this, you will realize that at the end of the day, your customers, they don't think you suck. They don't think you charge too much. They don't think what you do isn't valuable. They just get scared. They literally just are human, just like you. You know, I tell this story a lot. It's the really weird story. I came home one day and there was a big jug of almond milk on the counter. And I was like, why is there a big jug of almond milk on the counter? And I say to my wife, I'm like, what's with the almond milk? She gives me this like real mean look. And she walks over to the fridge and she flings the fridge open. She says, do you know what this is? And she holds up a can of store-bought almond milk. And I go, almond milk? She goes, yes. And it costs $6 a carton. You spend $200 a month on it because that's all you drink in your coffee and protein shakes. And look at all this gum and terrible things that you're ingesting. I go, okay, I don't know. What do you want me to do about it? And she goes, you see that? And she points to the big jug of almond milk. I go, Yeah? She goes, you know what that is? Almond milk? What do you want me to say? She goes, yes, but. And she holds up this black contraption. She says, this is an almond milk maker I got on Amazon for $50. Here's a little handful of almonds. It costs about 20 cents to make this big jug of almond milk that doesn't give you cancer and isn't $6. And I was like, oh my gosh, my wife is right. A little intense, but she was right. I was spending $200 a month on almond milk and ingesting all these terrible things because of one simple reason. I simply didn't know you could make homemade almond milk. And it's the things in life that we don't know that cause us the most expense, pain, and suffering. And I know every time I've made an investment into something I don't know, it has always paid off. So I want to leave you with one final thought. A few years ago, I would have never come to this event. Never in a million years would I have come and speak here. And do you know why? I had an incredible fear of flying. Incredible fear. I had speaking opportunity after speaking opportunity, and I wouldn't do it because I was so afraid to fly. One time I invested $30,000 years ago in Russell Brunson's mastermind. literally, I didn't go because I was so afraid. I was so afraid. Here's the point I want you to take home with you. And this is something that means a lot to me, and it's fear. Do you know how I got over my fear of flying? Because obviously I had to get on a plane to get here. I made a hard decision, and that decision was to learn how to fly. I decided to take flying lessons. Little Cessna 172. Yeah, that was a day. And what I learned was something very interesting. I learned I was never actually afraid of flying. I had anxiety, not fear. You see, fear is an emotional response to a clear and present danger. So if the plane was nosediving and everybody was screaming and the wings were on fire, and I was like, oh, that's fear. But when there's a bump, a little bit of turbulence, and the flight attendants are chilling, everybody's fine, the plane keeps going, and I'm like, that's anxiety. Anxiety is an emotional response to a made-up and future event, something that hasn't happened yet. So when we think, oh, am I going to fail in business? Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to make this investment and am I going to waste it? Am I going to this? Am I going to that? That's not fear. That's anxiety. And anxiety comes from not knowing how things work. Once I learned how planes worked, I never had anxiety anymore. And I fly now 1 or 2 times a month. I go and I speak at events. And I literally went to Vegas recently. I spent $40,000 to charter a private jet, and I flew the right seat co-pilot the entire time, 16 total flying hours while my COO enjoyed the back in the jet, because I love flying so much. So you imagine going from being so afraid of something to just loving it. Why? Because I figured out how it worked. And right now, and this has been true, and tell me if this is true, you have such fear and anxiety, and it's really anxiety over scaling, over your business being successful. And it's that feeling that really screws us up. And the reason that feeling happens is because you're looking at somebody else who is scaling. You're looking at somebody else who is making money. You're looking at somebody else who's doing what you want to do, and you're like, they know something that I don't. And because I don't know how it works, I get anxiety. And so that is why all of these decisions revolve around becoming the person you need to be, figuring out what works, removing all the things you don't know so you can clear the path to having what you want. Amelia Earhart is one of my favorite aviators, and it's because she was told 80 times that she could not make a transatlantic flight because people laughed in her face, because not only did they think that she couldn't make the flight, they didn't even think she could fly because she was a woman. And she made a transatlantic flight, which is hard, especially in the type of plane she did it. And Amelia Earhart once said, the most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. Thank you.
Hey, if you watched that speech and it was helpful, but you're wondering, how do I get started? How do I get something off the ground? What type of business should I create? Well, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get access to a free training on what I believe to be the best business model right now, especially for absolute beginners. Go ahead and click the link in the description to check that out. And don't forget to subscribe.